The United Nations Human Rights Council is a United Nations body whose mission is to promote and protect human rights around the world. The UNHRC has 47 members elected for staggered 3-year terms on a regional group basis. The headquarters of UNHRC is in Geneva, Switzerland. The UNHRC investigates allegations of breaches of human rights in United Nations member states and addresses important thematic human rights issues such as freedom of association and assembly, freedom of expression, freedom of belief and religion, women's rights, LGBT rights, and the rights of racial and ethnic minorities. The UNHRC was established by the UN General Assembly on 15 March 2006 to replace the UN Commission on Human Rights that had been strongly criticized for allowing countries with poor human rights records to be members. The UNHRC works closely with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and engages the UN special procedures. The members of the General Assembly elect the members who occupy the UNHRC's 47 seats. The term of each seat is 3 years, and no member may occupy a seat for more than 2 consecutive terms. The seats are distributed among the UN's regional groups as follows: 13 for Africa, 13 for Asia, 6 for Eastern Europe, 8 for Latin America and the Caribbean through a majority of those present and voting. The General Assembly can suspend the rights and privileges of any council member that it decides has persistently committed gross and systematic violations of human rights during its term of membership. The suspension process requires a 2/3 majority vote by the General Assembly. The resolution establishing the UNHRC states that, when electing members of the Council, member states shall take into account the contribution of candidates to the promotion and protection of human rights and their voluntary pledges and commitments made thereto, and that members elected to the Council shall uphold the highest standards in the promotion and protection of human rights. The UNHRC holds regular sessions 3 times a year. In March, June, and September, the UNHRC can decide at any time to hold a special session to address human rights violations and emergencies, at the request of 1/3 of the member states. As of May 2020, there have been 28 special sessions. The Council consists of 47 members, elected yearly by the General Assembly for staggered 3-year terms. Members are selected via the basis of equitable geographic rotation using the United Nations regional grouping system. Members are eligible for re-election for 1 additional term, after which they must relinquish their seat. The seats are distributed along the following lines. An important component of the Council consists in a periodic review of all 193 UN member states, called the Universal Periodic Review. The new mechanism is based on reports coming from different sources, one of them being contributions from non-governmental organizations. Each country's situation will be examined during a 3.5-hour debate. The first cycle of the UPR took place between 2008 and 2011. The second cycle between 2012 and 2016. And the third cycle began in 2017 and is expected to be completed in 2021. The General Assembly resolution establishing the Council provided that the Council shall review its work and functioning 5 years after its establishment. The main work of the review was undertaken in an intergovernmental working group established by the Council in its Resolution 12/1 of 1 October 2009. The review was finalized in March 2011 by the adoption of an outcome at the Council's 16th session. Annexed to Resolution 16/21. First cycle. The following terms and procedures were set out in General Assembly Resolution 6251. Second cycle. HRC Resolution 16/21 brought the following changes. Similar mechanisms exist in other organizations: International Atomic Energy Agency, Council of Europe, International Monetary Fund, Organization of American States, International Labour Bureau, and the World Trade Organization, except for the tri-annual reports on development of human rights policies that member states have to submit to the Secretary-General since 1956. The Human Rights Council UPR procedure constitutes a first in the area. It marks the end of the discrimination that had plagued the Human Rights Commission's work and had caused it to be harshly criticized. Finally, this mechanism demonstrates and confirms the universal nature of human rights. The Subcommission on the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights was the main subsidiary body of the CHR. The subcommission was composed of 26 elected human rights experts whose mandate was to conduct studies on discriminatory practices and to make recommendations to ensure that racial, national, religious, and linguistic minorities are protected by law. In 2006, the newly created UNHRC assumed responsibility for the subcommission. The subcommission's mandate W